There comes a moment in every believer's journey when the atmosphere begins to change, when the winds of the Spirit start stirring in ways you cannot fully explain, yet cannot deny. It is the quiet announcement from heaven that a big shift is on its way. You may not see it with your natural eyes, but deep in your spirit, you feel a pull, a stretching, a divine restlessness. That is God preparing you for the next dimension of your life. That is God reshaping your spiritual capacity so you can carry what He is about to release. Many people misinterpret delay as denial, but with God, delay is often development. He is shaping your character while preparing your blessing. He is teaching your faith to stand firm so that when the doors open, you walk through them with confidence rather than fear. God's timing is a sacred process. It is not controlled by human pressure, emotions, or impatience. He works according to eternal purpose. And when He says, now, every chain breaks, every barrier falls, every limitation dissolves. The shift may take time, but the moment it arrives, everything accelerates. In the waiting season, refuse to shrink your faith, expand it, enlarge the tent of your expectation. The Spirit of God never leads you backward. He always moves you from glory to glory. But before He shifts your circumstances, He shifts your vision. Before He enlarges your territory, He enlarges your mindset. You must see beyond your present because God wants to give you more than what your mind has been trained to expect. Your vision must grow until it matches. It arranges circumstances, aligns people, and cultivates your inner strength so that when the moment arrives, you can sustain the blessing rather than collapse under its weight. Many people confuse motion with progress. They want things to happen quickly because they feel ready. But readiness is not determined by emotion. It is determined by spiritual maturity. There are seasons when God withholds something not because you are unworthy of it, but because He loves you too much to let you mishandle it. What you interpret as delay might actually be protection. You may think, why hasn't it happened yet? While God is saying, I am preserving you from stepping into something prematurely. There are battles He fights before you get there. There are enemies He removes. There are opportunities He refines so that when they finally appear, they lift you rather than destroy you. Divine timing means God arranges everything in a sequence that brings maximum glory to Him and maximum development to you. Sometimes He slows you down to teach you discernment. Sometimes He stretches you to expand your faith. Sometimes He asks you to walk through the quiet seasons so that when the breakthrough comes, your trust in Him is unshakable. If blessings arrive before character is formed, the blessing becomes a weight instead of a gift. God's delays are not rejection, they are training grounds. He is forming resilience, humility, and spiritual insight within you. You are learning to depend on His voice rather than your own impulses. Think of how seeds behave. Once planted, they disappear beneath the soil when no one can see the process. There is no applause, no recognition, no visible movement, but beneath the surface, the seed is breaking open, expanding, taking root. If someone dug it up too early, thinking the seed was doing nothing, the growth would be destroyed. In the same way, there are seasons in your life where God buries you, not to abandon you, but to transform you. The hidden season is sacred. It is where God rewrites your vision, renews your strength, and reshapes your future. What looks like stillness is often divine activity happening in places your eyes cannot reach. Every delay has a purpose. God uses time as a tool of refinement. He strengthens what needs strengthening. He heals what needs healing. He removes what will not serve your next season. Sometimes He removes relationships quietly, opportunities slowly, and desires gently, because these things cannot travel where He is leading you. You may not understand the slow pace, but heaven understands your destiny. God refuses to let you arrive unprepared. And when His timing finally collides with your obedience, everything shifts. What took years will suddenly take moments. What seemed impossible will open with ease. What once felt distant will become your reality. That is why waiting is never wasted. God is aligning you with a future far greater than the one you imagined in your impatience. Your delays are preparation rooms where heaven perfects everything concerning you. Long before a shift becomes visible in your life, it is already unfolding in the invisible realm. Every breakthrough has a spiritual origin. Every door that opens in the natural was first unlocked in the supernatural. Most people only recognize God's movement when something changes in front of them. But the truth is that by the time you see the manifestation, heaven has already been working for a long time. Just because you cannot see progress does not mean progress is not happening. God often performs His greatest works in silence, shaping outcomes you have not yet imagined and positioning opportunities you have not yet discovered. What looks still on the surface is often full of motion behind the scenes. This is why faith is so essential in the season before the shift. When nothing around you seems to reflect what God promised, your spirit must hold on to what your eyes cannot yet perceive. Many people faint because they judge their future purely by their current circumstances. They forget that the spiritual realm is the birthplace of every blessing. When God is about to shift your life, He begins by challenging your assumptions. He disrupts the boundaries of your thinking. He confronts the lies you've believed about your worth, your future, and your limitations. He removes the ceilings you've placed on yourself through fear, past experiences, or small thinking. God will never place you in a realm your mind has not yet grown to handle. This is why the renewing of the mind is a constant process. Every time God prepares you for something greater, He starts by reshaping the way you see it. If your vision is too small, you will sabotage your blessing. If your expectation is too limited, you will settle for less than what God intended. Many people miss divine opportunities not because God didn't provide them, but because they were mentally unprepared to recognize or steward them. Expansion begins with imagination. You must be able to see possibilities where others see impossibilities. You must be willing to believe that God can take you beyond your background, beyond your environment, and beyond the limitations that others have placed upon you. There are seasons when God stretches you deeply. He places a dream in your heart that feels bigger than your resources, your experience, or your current position. That dream is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to awaken your faith. God gives you a vision that is too large for you to accomplish alone, so that you must depend on His power to fulfill it. The stretching you feel is heaven's way of increasing your capacity. When your spirit enlarges, your future enlarges. When your faith expands, your opportunities multiply. God will not shrink your calling to fit your comfort zone. He will stretch your capacity to match your calling. Sometimes this stretching feels uncomfortable. You may feel out of place, unqualified, or unprepared. But discomfort is often the first sign of divine expansion. It indicates that you're being transitioned from one level to another. When a container is too small, pressure builds inside of it. When your current environment cannot hold what God is birthing in you, you begin to sense a spiritual tension. That tension is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something greater is forming. Your spirit knows there is more. Your purpose knows it is time to rise. Your destiny begins to outgrow your present situation. God enlarges your capacity through faith challenges, new responsibilities, unexpected opportunities, and moments that require courage. Each step forces you to grow, to trust, to rely on His strength rather than your own. As you embrace the process, you will notice a shift in how you see yourself. You begin to think like someone who is cold, not someone who is limited. You begin to speak like someone who carries purpose, not like someone who is controlled by past failures. You begin to make decisions based on where you are going, not where you used to be. And once your inner capacity matches the future God has prepared for you, the external shift begins to manifest. Doors open that were previously closed. Resources appear that once seemed impossible. People come into your life who recognize the greatness God has placed in you. The blessing that once felt too big now feels aligned with who you have become. God expands your vision first, because your destiny can only grow as much as your faith allows it. Obedience is the bridge between promise and fulfillment. Many people pray for breakthroughs, dream of elevation, and desire divine shifts, but they fail to realize that God's timing is activated through obedience. The same power that creates worlds responds to a willing heart that follows His direction. Every divine shift begins with a step of faith, a moment of surrender, and a choice to move according to His voice rather than human reasoning. Obedience is not about perfection. It is about positioning yourself where God can move. It is about aligning your will with His, even when the path is unclear or the timing seems inconvenient. God often tests obedience in the small things before releasing the greater. A simple instruction, a minor decision, or a subtle prompting may seem insignificant, but it is a training ground for the larger assignment. Those who resist small instructions often miss the larger manifestations. Obedience is a pattern, a principle that shapes destiny. The person who acts faithfully in little things demonstrates readiness for the big shift. Heaven honors alignment. God rewards responsiveness. The step that may seem minor today can become the platform for tomorrow's miracle. Every act of obedience multiplies unseen, weaving the threads of divine favor and opening doors you cannot yet see. Hesitation, on the other hand, delays what God is ready to release. Many blessings are postponed not because God is unwilling, but because people are not yet positioned. Waiting passively is not the same as trusting actively. Faith is not a passive stance, it is an active pursuit of alignment with God's plan. When God whispers go or nudges give or prompts forgive, your movement triggers acceleration. Your obedience creates a spiritual momentum that prepares the environment for your next season. Every moment you respond promptly to God, you shorten the distance between promise and reality. Obedience also develops sensitivity to God's voice. In the seasons before a big shift, there's often a quiet, almost imperceptible guidance from heaven. Those who are trained to listen and respond discern the shift before it manifests in the natural. Those who ignore small promptings find themselves unprepared when the larger assignment arrives. God does not demand obedience to restrict you. He commands it to position you. Every instruction is a divine lever, lifting you closer to the destiny He has already prepared. Obedience tunes your spiritual antenna to heaven, so that you see the invisible and recognize the opportunities hidden from the eyes of the world. There is a spiritual principle. God always honors His word in alignment with your willingness. The promises of God are certain, but their timing often depends on your posture. Those who obey without question experience acceleration. Those who resist or procrastinate experience delay. Obedience activates favor, multiplies resources, and opens doors. It turns preparation into manifestation. It converts waiting into walking in breakthrough. Your willingness to respond is as important as your expectation of the blessing. Faith without obedience is incomplete. Just as seeds left unwatered never reach their potential. Sometimes obedience requires risk. It may push you out of comfort zones, challenge your pride, or contradict human logic, but divine movement rarely occurs in areas of convenience. The shift God is about to release demands that you trust Him beyond what you can see. It requires that you surrender control, relinquish certainty, and follow even when the path seems unclear. Every act of obedience plants a seed in the unseen realm. And when the season arrives, that seed blossoms into a blessing far greater than anything your eyes could have anticipated. Obedience is not just an action, it is a posture, a lifestyle, and the key that unlocks God's timing. The big shift will always meet those who have positioned themselves faithfully, ready to move when heaven calls. The moment of a divine shift is not subtle, it is transformative. It does not simply improve your situation, it redefines it. When God moves, He does not merely adjust the circumstances around you, He changes the very structure of your destiny. That is why many who seek the shift long for it without preparing for it. The shift will demand more than what you have today. It will require faith, strength, and perspective that match the blessing itself. God's greatest works are not incremental, they are exponential. What once felt like the ceiling of your potential will become the floor of your new reality. When the shift comes, everything familiar may feel small, but it is necessary for you to step into the fullness of your calling. The shift will test your preparedness. It will reveal whether the work God has been doing in you during the waiting season has taken root. Have you developed patience? Have you cultivated humility? Have you maintained trust when there was nothing to hold on to? These internal qualities become the pillars that sustain the external blessings. Many people long for breakthroughs, but when the moment arrives, they are overwhelmed, unsteady, or unprepared to handle what has been entrusted to them. The shift is not a reward for effort alone. It is a fulfillment of purpose prepared in tandem with obedience and spiritual maturity. When God shifts your circumstances, He often rearranges your relationships, environment, and opportunities. Some people you have relied on may no longer be present, while others appear at just the right time. What may have been a limitation becomes a gateway. Doors that seemed permanently closed swing open with ease. Opportunities that were hidden now come into clear view. The shift aligns everything that heaven has been orchestrating behind the scenes. It is not random, it is divine precision. What you experience will feel sudden, but in reality, it has been in preparation for years, often shaped long before you even understood it. The shift also redefines your identity. The person you were before is not the person who will walk through the new doors. God often enlarges your spiritual, mental, and emotional capacity before He releases the breakthrough. He prepares your character so that it can sustain the blessing without being consumed by it. The new season will require courage, wisdom, and faith that exceed your past experiences. If you cling to your old ways of thinking or old patterns of living, you may miss the fullness of what God has prepared. The shift demands alignment with a higher vision, a larger purpose, and a deeper trust in God's timing. Resistance may increase just before the shift, but it is not an indication that the promise is failing. On the contrary, opposition often signifies that a breakthrough is near. The enemy recognizes the magnitude of what is coming and attempts to delay or divert you. But if you have stayed faithful in the waiting, if you have obeyed the small instructions, and if you have cultivated a heart of expectancy, you will navigate the opposition with clarity and strength. The shift will not only bring blessings, it will bring victory over obstacles that have hindered your progress in the past. Finally, when the shift manifests, it will bring clarity and acceleration. What seemed impossible will be possible. What was hidden will be revealed. The shift moves at God's perfect pace, and when it arrives, it moves powerfully, redefining your influence, your purpose, and your legacy. You will understand why the waiting was necessary, why the preparation was essential, and why God's timing was perfect. Everything you have endured, every season of silence, every act of faith, and every step of obedience will converge in this moment, confirming that God's plan was never delayed. It was perfectly timed. The big shift is more than a change. It is a divine transformation that launches you into the fullness of God's promise. Thank you for trusting me with this work. I truly appreciate the opportunity to create something meaningful for you. May every word inspire, encourage, and bring transformation. Wishing you clarity, strength, and divine favor as you step into the next season of your journey. Goodbye for now, and may your path ahead be filled with breakthroughs, purpose, and unshakable faith.